Hello, my name is Casey Smith, and thank you for joining me today for my presentation on the learning process. I am from Akron, Ohio, and I am a first grade teacher currently working on my master's degree in teacher leadership. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about how we as human beings learn and how we as teachers can use this information to help our students learn to the best of their abilities. So, in thinking about how we learn, it's important to consider every aspect that has been studied, what research is out there, what do we know, and what is there still to be learned. So, over the years there have been many different theories, including social theories, theories that interpret our behavior as how we learn, developmental theories, and also cognitive and brain-based theories. It's important for us to know as teachers how we as human beings learn, so that way we're not just simply teaching our students, we are helping them to get to a place of learning. In the past, there has been a huge focus on what are we going to do, how are we going to do it, what are we going to teach our students, and how are we going to communicate information to them, where all along it may have been more helpful for us to be focusing on how do our students learn this information? What are we going to do to get them to be able to be in a place of learning? So I'm going to go through and introduce a few different areas of research that have been studied and some of the theories about how we as human beings learn. One of the first areas of research that I thought was very interesting was Dr. Pam Alexander. In her video on this week's module, she talked about research that she participated in that had to do with psychological learning. And they ended up coming up with 6 areas of psychological research that really defined how people learn. So the first area was knowledge. What is it that people already know? What experiences and environments have they come from that have already built a knowledge base within them? The second is metacognition. This might seem like a really foreign word, but in actuality, all it means is thinking about your thinking. So in this psychological research, they found that metacognition plays a huge role in how we learn. The third part was motivation. What motivates us to learn? Why do we want to learn? Motivation can play a very huge part in students learning within the classroom. Developmental and individual differences played a part. The situation and context in which students were learning played a huge part. And then finally, the assessments that were being given played a part in how learners learn. Another theory that I find particularly interesting is Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. So take a minute and just think about, how is it that you think you best learn? I know that personally, I am a type of person who I like interacting with others. That helps me to learn. And also, I can remember songs that I was taught when I was a 3rd grader many years ago. So for me, being taught new information in a musical format really appeals to my intelligence. Yours may be completely different. Maybe you learn through being in nature, and maybe you learn through numbers. Maybe you're the type of person that learns through seeing something. Or maybe you're the type of person that learns through having a verbal discussion with another person. All of these, and there are also a few more types of intelligences, were part of Gardner's theory of multiple intelligences. And Gardner thought that instruction should incorporate multiple modalities of learning. So maybe there was a verbal part to a lesson, maybe there was a kinesthetic or a movement part. And he also believed that people learn based on what appeals to their own intelligence personality. The next theory about how people learn is constructivism. Constructivism is basically just what it sounds like. Learners can build upon what they already know and what they've already come to believe. So the way that I remember this is that it's like we're starting from a foundation and we're constructing on top of that. We're building on the knowledge that we already have and going from there to learn new things. So teachers can use constructivism in their favor by giving pre-assessments, giving attitude surveys, and figuring out what it is that their students already know, what beliefs their students already have, and using that to build upon their students' prior knowledge. The next theory is a name that you've probably heard before if you have taken any education class, and it's based on Lev Vygotsky's findings in 1978, and this is the social cognition theory of learning. Vygotsky believed that students learn within their zone of proximal development. Now, the zone of proximal development is what we nowadays would consider a student's instructional level. Not their frustrational level, not what they would get too frustrated with, and not what they're able to do independently, but what they can do with a push from teacher, what they can do with guidance and support, what they can potentially get to with that teacher support is known as the zone of proximal development. So Vygotsky believed that learning can occur when a teacher provides lessons within that potential development range, the ZPD. Finally, the last theory that I want to mention today is based on Piaget's findings in 1970, and that's the developmental stages and cognitive structures. Also, if you have taken any education class, you may have heard of this before. Piaget believed that there were four cognitive structures, developmental stages that students go through. The first one being sensory motor, which was from birth to age 2. Pre-operational from 2 years to 7 years of age. Concrete operational from age 7 to age 12. And then finally, formal operational. And students use their developmental stages to build cognitive structures, so like mind maps, and they do that based on their development. And the developmental stages can change as the students acquire more knowledge. It's not necessarily always tied to the age, but it is always occurring in the order that I mentioned. Thank you for listening today. I appreciate your time, and I hope that you were able to take away some new information about how we learn.